So we have the user number. This find all greater than numbers needs a list. The program over here said, assume that the list contains numbers. I mean, we can't just assume. In order to test it, we need to actually have a list. I mean, you can assume, but in order to test it, you need to have a list. So let's create our own list. The program said assume the list contains numbers. So we're going to create any list here. We're going to call it list of numbers. Again, it doesn't matter. This list of numbers here is the same as this name. Again, they're considered different lists because they're in different functions. They don't see each other. They don't see each other or interact with each other at all. So this list, let's just specify some numbers, or let's just store some numbers in there. Let's store numbers from 1 to 10. So 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. Yeah, so this is our list. We have our user number. Then now we can go ahead and just space this out a little bit. We can go ahead and call our find all greater than numbers function. I'm going to call it here. The find all greater than numbers function accepting 2 arguments. The first is our list of numbers. We have it here. And so I can pass it to this function. The second is our user number, which we have here. So I can pass it also in this function. And we know that the find all greater than numbers returns a list containing all the greater than numbers. So when it's returning it, we need a place to start. So I'm going to create a list called greater than numbers. Greater than numbers list. Again, it doesn't matter that the name of this is the same as this. It doesn't matter. They don't see each other at all. This is considered different from this because they are individual separate functions. All right, I can see I'm exceeding this line here. This line here is a guideline for me not to exceed about 79 characters in a line. So it's a Python standard not to exceed around 79 characters on a line. So I want to follow that. So I'm going to break this line into 2. I'm not going to hurt anything or destroy anything functionally or function-wise. I'm just going to, this is just a visual thing. I'm going to break this line into 2. Before you break any line into 2, you have to type in a backslash and hit enter. I'm going to do that. Type in a backslash first before you break it. It's just it doesn't really do anything to this. It's just visually breaks it into 2. But the backslash is essential. So we'll have all the numbers here. And then now we have to display all the numbers greater than the user number. We have a function for that, which is display values in list. This will basically display all the values in any list. And so I'm going to pass in, it needs the list. It can be any list. It needs the list to display the values. So I'm going to pass in the greater than numbers list because that's what we want to display. And then that's it. And okay, so if we run the program here, let's try to save it. I'm going to go to where our programs are. So in chapter 7, I'm going to create a new folder for this program. I'm going to call it larger than n. And I'm going to save this file in that folder as larger than n.py. Okay, so when we run this program, nothing happens. See, I'm clicking it, nothing happens because we've only defined functions and we haven't called them. So, we have to call them for them to work. So even though the main function has, we are calling functions in the main function is also a function. And we need to call that so that these other functions can be called. So let's go ahead and call the main function here. Now let's run it and see what happens. It says please enter a user number. I'm going to enter 4. So if I enter 4, I'm expecting to see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 because 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all these numbers are greater than 4. So I'm going to type in 4 and we can see it's displaying 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's display it horizontally. I don't like to display it vertically. So this is our function that displays all our values. And that function, when it prints out the value, it enters with a new line. That's because the print function by default ends whatever you've told it to print with a new line. It prints out that value. So it prints out 5. But the print function ends by default with a new line. What it means is it prints out that value and moves the position from the end of this line to the next line. And anything that follows whatever you've just printed previously will be displayed from the next line going. And then it ends that with a new line as well. Moves the position from the end of that line to the next line. and anything that follows whatever you printed previously will be displayed from the next line going. Okay, so we can change that ending value. We can change what it ended with, and the way you do that is by passing as an argument. Okay, end is equal to, we can change it. We can change it to whatever we like. We can say don't end it with a new line, but end it with a comma and a space, something like this. So now let's try again. Type in 4, and now it prints out the number, ends it with a comma and a space. Sorry. Now we would like this last comma here to be a period and not a comma, because it doesn't look nice, right? We want our programs to look nice. So we can change this to a period. Now the only number that is going to have a period is really the last one. It's really the last one. And so we can target that last value and just print out something else instead of a comma, that period in this case. Now the way you target out the last item is by its index. You can use its index, and we know that the last element or the last item will have an index of 1 less than the length of the list. So if you have a list that contains, in this case, 10 items, okay, you have a list containing 10 items. So it contains 10 items, all right, but the index of the first item starts from 0. Index of the second item is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So even though we have 10 items, the index of the last item is 9, because indexing starts from 0. First item has an index of 0. And so we know the last item will have an index of 1 less than the length of the list. The list has 10 items. 1 less than the length of the list, 1 less than 10 is 9. We know the last item of any list will always have an index of 1 less than the length of the list. So we can target that. And so before we print anything at all, let's have an if statement that checks that. This current value index is what's keeping track of our index. So we can say if at any time the current value index, let me just copy this, is equal to 1 less than the length of the list. We know we can access the length here. If it's equal to 1 less than the length of the list, so length of the list minus 1. If at any time the current value index is equal to the length of the list minus 1, then that means that we are that's the last item. And so let's end that with a period. That's it. Else means that the index is not the last index. And so in that case, let's print out what we were printing previously, which is print out the number but end it with a comma and a space. So let's try again. Run our program, type in 4, and we can see that it's printing out all the numbers greater than 4, but it's also ending the last number with a period. Okay, so let's test this out some more. So let's type in 1. If I type in 1, I'm expecting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 10, because these are the numbers greater than 1 in the list. So when I hit enter, I see those numbers. When I type in 7, run the program again, I'm expecting 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 10. So it's working. When I type in 0 and I hit enter, these are all the numbers greater than 0 in the list. When I type in 10, now are there any numbers greater than 10 in this list? No. So when I type in 10, I hit enter. See, nothing happens. That's not nice. We need to let's modify our program so that it displays a message saying that, oh, there are no numbers that are greater than 10. So this is the function that displays our values. It displays our values in a list. Right before that, let's create an if statement and say that if, all right, so we will have all our greater than numbers, right? This is going to be a list containing all our greater than numbers. And this greater than numbers, if we enter 10, if the user enters 10, for example, and there are no greater than numbers greater than 10, then the length of this list will be 0, right? So if at any time the length of this list here is greater than numbers list is 0. Now I'm using two double equal signs. Over here I also use two double equal signs. So I'm using two double equal signs to compare. I'm asking, is what's on the right equal to what's on the left? Okay. Now don't use one equal sign. Same thing here. Don't use one equal sign. If you use one equal sign, you're assigning what's on the right to what's on the left. We want to ask, okay, is what's on the right equal to what's on the left? So we are using two double equal sign. So if at any time the length of this greater than numbers list is equal to 0. Okay, if there's nothing in there, then that means there are no numbers greater than the user number. So in that case, let's display a message saying that there are no numbers greater than what? Now we have access to the user number, so we can use it in our print statement here, print function here. So there are no numbers greater than the number that the user typed, the user number. But if so, else means that the length of the greater than, that means else means the length of the greater than numbers list, is not equal to 0. Meaning is actually let's not say it's equal to 0. Let's say if it's less than 1. Let's say if it's less than 1, right? You can also use is equal to 0, but it makes sense to say if it's less than 1. If it's less than 1, then that means it's 0 and below, right? 0 and below. So if the length of the greater than numbers is 0 below, that means that there's nothing. You can't have a negative number of items in a list. So 0 or nothing. So if it's less than 1, then let's print out there are no numbers greater than whatever the user typed. Else, that means that, we have numbers at least 1 or above. If it's not less than 1, then it's either 1 or above, right? So in that case, then let's call our function here, display values, and let's display the values in the list. Okay, so let's try again. Type in 4, it works. Let's type in now all the numbers, display all the numbers greater than 10 in this list. There are no numbers. When I hit enter, it says there are no numbers greater than 10 in this list. So you can just add it in this list. So by default, when you pass an argument into the print function, they are displayed with a space separating them. So when I type in 10 again here, this is one entire argument. There are no arguments greater than. And there's a space here. And then this is the next argument, 10. And then there's a space here. And then we have in the list. Okay, so a space here and a space here. By default, when you pass an argument into the print function this way, they are displayed with a space separating them. That's the default separator. All right, and so we're done with this function. So let's try one more time. Let's try 4. Okay, it works. So if you have any questions, please comment down below and I'll do everything to respond to them. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you next time with the next program. All right then, bye-bye.